My name's Jake Turner. I'm 28, and up until about a year ago, I still held on to this stubborn, ragged hope that if I kept showing up, kept patching the holes in the Turner family ship, they'd finally see me as more than the guy with duct tape in his hands. Spoiler, they didn't. Growing up, I was the fixer. Not because I was the best suited for it, or because anyone asked nicely. It was just expected, like taking out the trash or cleaning the gutters. You don't thank the gutters. You just notice when they're clogged. First came me. Then Samantha, Sam, the golden child with a laugh that could clear a room or fill it, depending on her mood. And a few years after her, Dylan, the accidental little brother nobody had time for, except maybe me. Our dad skipped town before Dylan was out of diapers. Left mom half a mortgage and a full arsenal of guilt trips. She wielded those like a professional. You know I can't do this without you, Jakey, she'd say, squeezing my shoulder just hard enough to leave a mark if not a bruise. From the outside, we looked like a perfectly normal, mildly dysfunctional family. Christmas cards, polite Facebook comments, the occasional Happy Mother's Day post with the right filter slapped on. But underneath, it was all cracks covered by cheap wallpaper. I was the one who loaned Sam money to cover her car note when she forgot it 3 months in a row. The one who bailed mom out when the utilities got cut off because she spent the bill money on a weekend getaway with her Bible study group. The one who helped Dylan with his college applications because no one else remembered he had deadlines. And every time, I thought, maybe this time they'll see. Maybe this time they'll stop treating me like the family Roomba and start treating me like, an actual person. Hope is a funny thing. It doesn't die all at once. It dies in pieces, like a rope fraying under slow, constant tension. The first real snap came last October. I was scrolling through my phone after a brutal shift. I bartend 3 nights a week to help pay the bills, and there it was, Sam's engagement announcement. Flashy diamond, smug grin, Brandon the human khaki pant next to her. I won't lie. My first instinct was happiness. Maybe this was it. Maybe a wedding could be a fresh start. I texted her, "Congrats. Let me know if you need anything. Happy for you both." 2 days later, I got back at tea checks. That should have been the second fray, but I was still too tangled up in old dreams to see it. I offered to pitch in for the honeymoon as a gift. A real gift, not the let me take over so you don't drown type. An actual no-strings gesture. She said she'd think about it. Meanwhile, Mom started posting cryptic updates about exciting family milestones and proud moments without mentioning me once. Dylan sent me screenshots, bless his awkward heart, trying to make jokes about it. Guess you're still the family ninja, bro. I laughed it off, played along. But under the jokes, in the casual texts, something heavier started to settle. A knowledge I didn't want but couldn't unknow anymore. I wasn't family. Not really. I was a service. A background character. They loved the idea of me when they needed me. Otherwise, I might as well have been a ghost holding a checkbook. And ghosts, as it turns out, don't get invitations. I didn't know it yet, but the call that was going to rip the last threads loose was only weeks away. Looking back, there were signs. There always are. You just have to stop squinting through the hope long enough to see them. Funny thing is, I thought I was ready to finally be part of something. Turns out, I was getting ready to finally It was 2 weeks before Sam's big day when my phone buzzed with a call from Mom. I was elbow deep in invoices at the bar, counting down the hours until closing time, when her name lit up the screen like a warning flare. I almost didn't answer. Almost. "Hey, Mom," I said, tucking the phone between my shoulder and ear. "Jake," she snapped. No greeting, no warm-up. "Listen, about the wedding." Here it came. The request for help. Maybe she'd need me to shuttle guests or fix some last-minute disaster. I was ready. Wallet out. Heart open. Sam's decided. Mom paused, her voice dropping into that fake sweet tone she used when she was about to knife you with a smile. "Sam's decided it would be better if you didn't come." For a second, I thought I misheard her. "Come again?" I asked, blinking hard. "It's nothing personal," she lied, the way only family can. "It's just, you've always been a little stiff. You know how you get. And Sam wants the day to be light, joyful." I let the words wash over me, each syllable another slap. I wasn't planning to make a speech or anything, I said, voice low. I was just going to show up. "Exactly," she said, like that proved her point. "You showing up, it's distracting." I could hear voices in the background. Sam's high, manic laugh. Brandon's low, bland hum. "Tell him he can still send a gift." Sam called out, like I was a distant relative who'd RSVP'd, maybe, to a destination wedding. I didn't yell, didn't argue, Didn't ask why showing up to quietly support my sister would ruin her perfect day. Instead, I smiled. That cold, practiced smile you use when you realize the fight isn't worth it because the outcome's already been rigged. Sure, I said lightly. I understand. And I did. I understood everything. That night, after closing the bar and counting out the tips, I sat in my truck for a long time. Engine off, just breathing in the silence. Then I opened my banking app. The $3,800 transfer I'd set up for their honeymoon package, I reversed it with 2 taps. Funds returned. Confirmation screenshot saved. I sent it to Mom with a 2-word text. Best wishes. No reply. Not that I expected one. Hope wasn't fraying anymore. It had snapped clean off. And for the first time, I didn't feel sadness. I felt free. They didn't want me in their pictures. Fine. But they had no idea that the stage they were about to stand on, I owned a piece of it. And the best part? They'd already posed for every rehearsal, every fitting, every perfect day post. All I had to do was wait. The thing about playing the long game is you have to be willing to sit with your own anger, let it cool into something sharp and deliberate. Rage is messy. Patience is surgical. A few months back, before Sam's engagement had even been a twinkle in Brandon's bland eyes, I'd made a quiet investment. The pandemic had wrecked a lot of small businesses, including event venues. I'd gotten a tip from an old college buddy who now dabbled in real estate. If you can get a piece of a place like that for cheap, you should. Weddings aren't going anywhere, man. He was right. Lakeview Pines was a struggling but beautiful property, big gazebo, lakeside view, 2 mini swans. They needed a cash infusion. I gave them a small loan in exchange for a minor ownership stake and, more importantly, a controlling vote on major event decisions. Back then, it was just business. No one knew Sam would be drooling over their website a few months later. But when she did, oh man, I recognized the spot immediately from her Instagram post. That white gazebo, framed by those ridiculous cotton candy sunset filters? I nearly spit out my coffee laughing. I pulled up my paperwork that night, skimming through the contract I'd signed. There it was. All major event bookings had to be fully paid 10 days before the event date, or the reservation was void. Not postponed. Not negotiable. Void. At the time, it had seemed like a technicality, an incentive to make sure the place didn't get ghosted last minute. Now, it felt like a loaded weapon, placed gently into my hands. I didn't need to sabotage anything. Didn't need to rant or rage or smash up the scenery like a bad action movie. All I had to do was wait, and let them do what they always did, assume someone else would catch them. Sam was too busy posting bride vibes selfies with her bridesmaids to check on things like boring old payments. Brandon was too busy practicing his earnest face for wedding photos to think about contracts. Mom? She assumed that if there was any mess, I'd sweep it up like always. They built this perfect day on a foundation they never bothered to read. And me? I built a chair, sat down, waited. I called Marcy, the lead coordinator at Lakeview Pines, just to make sure everything was ticking along. Hey, Jake, she said, her voice the cheerful, slightly stressed chirp of someone who managed 100 emergencies a week. Everything's fine on our end. Although, she hesitated. We're still waiting on the final payment from the Carson Turner party. Ah, I said lightly. When's that due again? 10 days before. So. She clicked something on her computer. Next Thursday. Got it. I've sent a few reminders, she added. I'm sure they'll get it in soon. I'm sure, I agreed, smiling in a way she couldn't see. I didn't send Sam a heads up. I didn't text Mom to just make sure everything was handled. They wanted me out of their picture. Consider me gone. In the meantime, life got better in ways I hadn't expected. I went back to the gym. Started cooking again instead of living off bar nachos and Red Bull. Dylan and I grabbed coffee a couple of times, real conversations, not just "you okay?" texts. Without the constant buzzing pull of, what do they need now, in the back of my mind, my brain felt clean. Like a house you didn't realize was full of junk until you threw it all out. The deadline crept closer. 10 days. 9. 7. Still no payment. Marcy sent another friendly nudge to Sam's email. Copied Brandon. Got radio silence. I pictured them lounging on a Pinterest-perfect couch somewhere, too wrapped up in seating charts and cake tastings to notice the ground under their feet shifting. 5 days out, Marcy texted me directly. Marcy, still nothing from the Turner party. Want me to escalate? Me. Nope. Just follow the contract. Marcy, understood. Deadline is Thursday. That night, Dylan texted me, you going to the wedding? I stared at the message for a long time. Finally, I replied, not invited. A beat later, their loss. I smiled, genuine this time. 3 days to go. 2. Thursday morning, I brewed good coffee. The fancy kind I used to think was a waste of money. Sat on the balcony with a book. My phone buzzed at noon. Marcy, payment deadline passed. Reservation voided. File updated. Simple. Clinical. Final. I stared out at the lake glinting in the distance, feeling something deep in my chest, not triumph. Not really anger either. Relief. The weight I'd carried my whole life dropped. They built their fairy tale without reading the fine print. And the clock had just struck. The next morning, I expected a flurry of calls. A frantic text. Maybe even an email titled urgent, in all caps. Instead, nothing. Radio silence. I poured myself another cup of coffee and stared out at the bright morning, amused. Maybe they hadn't checked yet. Maybe they were too busy posing for another perfectly staged brunch photo. But Lakeview Pines? They had moved on. Officially. The calendar showed the booking as vacant. The website's reservation link reopened. By noon, though, the silence cracked. My phone buzzed, a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. A few minutes later, another. This time I picked up. "Hi, is this Jake Turner?" A bright, slightly panicked voice asked. "Speaking," I said, leaning back in my chair. "Hi, this is Tessa from Belle Ever After Weddings. I'm Sam's planner." She said it like a question, like maybe I'd recognize her name or be thrilled to hear it. "Hi, Tessa," I said neutrally. "So we just ran into a teensy snag with Lakeview Pines. There seems to have been some kind of clerical error with the reservation." I raised an eyebrow. "Clerical error?" "Yes," she chirped, voice a little too high. "I'm sure it's just a glitch. But, they said the booking was voided." "That's strange," I said, injecting just the right note of confused sympathy. "Did the final payment go through?" A pause. "Well," she said quickly, "Sam's mom was handling that, and there might have been some confusion with the bank transfer." I could practically hear her flipping through her planner, looking for a miracle. "I'm really sorry," I said, sounding like I meant it. "But once a booking's voided there, it's really hard to reverse, especially on a weekend." "Oh," she said. "Oh no." I let her stew for a moment before adding, "Might want to check with the venue directly." "Right. Of course. Thank you, Mr. Turner." She hung up. I set my phone down and exhaled slowly. Not triumphant. Not gloating. Just free. A few hours later, Dylan texted, "Mom's losing her mind. Sam's crying. Brandon's useless. It's a beautiful day." I laughed. Actually laughed. It felt good. Friday afternoon brought the next wave. This time it was Mom. "Jake," she barked when I picked up. "What have you done?" "I'm not sure what you mean," I said, even toned. "Lakeview Pines says the booking's gone." "Correct," I said, "because the payment wasn't made." "You knew," she shrieked. "You knew and you didn't tell us?" "You told me not to come," I said calmly. "I figured you had it all under control." There was a long, stunned silence. "You're punishing your sister. On her wedding weekend." "No," I said. "I'm just following your lead." Another silence, heavier this time. "You have to fix this," she snapped. "I don't have to do anything," I said, smiling into the receiver. "Good luck, Mom." And I hung up. I slept like a rock that night. Saturday morning, my phone buzzed nonstop. Tessa, Sam, even Brandon, who must have drawn the short straw. I ignored every call. Around noon, Dylan sent me a selfie, him holding a coffee cup, grinning. Captioned, "Missed the wedding. Got pancakes instead." #worded. I laughed out loud. The fantasy was crumbling. The perfect Instagram wedding collapsing under the weight of its own hollow foundations. And I didn't have to lift a finger. All I had to do was watch the cracks widen. And they were just getting. Saturday evening rolled around, and still no official save the wedding announcement. If there was a Hail Mary plan brewing, it hadn't been kicked into motion yet. But I knew how desperate people operated. Desperation made them sloppy. It made them hope for loopholes, miracles, or handouts. And my family had never been shy about asking for a bailout, at least when it came to me. Sure enough, around 8 p.m., I got a call from Brandon. "Jake, buddy," he started, overly cheerful like he thought maybe we'd just forgotten all the insults and abandonment. "Hey, man, any chance you could, talk to the venue? Maybe help us smooth things over." I let him ramble, tossing out half-baked apologies about misunderstandings and crazy bank errors. When he finally wound down, I said, "Brandon, did you know that I'm part owner of Lakeview Pines?" Silence. "No," he said slowly. "Yeah," I said, savoring the word like a good glass of bourbon. "And when I say the booking's voided, I mean it's really voided. He stammered something about surely an exception, and Sam's been crying all day. I'm sure she has, I said flatly. But see, I'm not family anymore. Remember? I'm the distraction. The embarrassment. That's not fair, man. Fairness would have been a seat at the table, I said, ending the call. Right after, I opened the Lakeview Pines admin portal and made a few strategic moves. First, I adjusted the website's booking notice. Saturday closed for a private event. No new reservations. Second, I greenlit a small corporate lunch event for the same day, an easy approval that locked the site for good. Third, I sent an email to the staff. Reminder, no weddings or large private gatherings allowed this Saturday. Property reserved for confirmed corporate luncheon. Within an hour, Carter, my buddy who ran a high-end catering business, texted back, lunch menu approved. Should we glam it up a bit? I grinned. Absolutely, I replied. Make it look like the event of the year. If they tried to show up last minute, they'd be facing a locked gate and a whole setup that had nothing to do with them. And the best part? Everyone in town and online would see it. Sunday morning, I woke up to frantic voicemails from Tessa, a few guilt-tripping texts from Mom, and a single "You're unbelievable" from Sam. No sorry. No, we messed up. Just blame. Typical. By now, it wasn't even about the wedding. It was about the illusion they'd worked so hard to polish. The perfect family, the golden daughter, the generous mom, the blandly charming groom. I had shattered that without shouting, without throwing a punch, without even raising my voice. I had just walked away and locked the door behind me. Sunday night, Dylan swung by my place with takeout, burgers and fries, extra greasy, and we sat on my porch, watching the sun sink behind the hills. You know, he said between bites, I think you finally taught them something. What's that? I asked. He smirked. That the guy holding the ladder isn't obligated to catch you when you jump. I laughed. A real, chest-deep laugh. For the first time in my life, it didn't hurt. It just felt clean. And we weren't even at the best part yet. Because the wedding day? The real show? That was still to come. The morning of what was supposed to be the happiest day of Sam's life dawned crisp and clear. Perfect weather. Blue sky like it had been painted on. Birds chirping, not a cloud in sight. I woke up early. Not because I had anywhere to be, but because I wanted to savor it. Coffee brewed. Bacon sizzling. Feet kicked up on the porch railing as I watched the sunlight creep across the street. By 9 a.m., the group text started. Not mine. I've been ghosted from family chats months ago, but Dylan, bless him, forwarded the chaos. Does anyone know what's happening at the venue? It is locked. Our driver says they won't let him in. Please respond if you hear anything. I laughed into my coffee mug. Lakeview Pines was booked solid. All right, just not for them. The private corporate event I'd approved the week before had transformed the grounds. Carter's catering crew went all in. Champagne towers, sleek white tents, a jazz trio playing under the gazebo. Everywhere Sam's carefully curated aesthetic had once been mapped out, from the custom floral arch to the monogrammed welcome signs, was now filled with polished businessmen and cocktail tables. Around 10:30, Dylan texted me again. Mom's melting down. Aunt Lisa says it's an attack on the family. Sam's sitting in her car. Brandon's arguing with security. I just smiled and refreshed the event hashtag Carter had cleverly created. Hashtag success starts here. Photos poured in. Champagne flutes catching the light. Banners fluttering with corporate logos. A private luncheon laid out like a king's feast. Not a single white dress in sight. By noon, the cracks in their picture-perfect day had become a full-on landslide. Bridesmaids in full hair and makeup were stranded in the parking lot, frantically calling rideshares. Guests wandered around confused, clutching tiny satin wedding programs like lost pilgrims. The flower girls sat on a curb, tiara sliding down one ear, munching quietly on a granola bar. They hadn't told anyone, hadn't warned a soul. Too proud to admit the wedding was slipping through their fingers. They believed so hard that someone, anyone, would fix it at the last minute. Someone always had before. But not today. At 1:15 p.m., my phone buzzed again, an unknown number. I let it ring. At 1:17, another, and another. Then came the texts. Mom, you're disgusting. Sam, you ruined everything. Brandon, hope you're happy. Hope? I wasn't happy. I was free. And no one could take that from me anymore. Not today. Not ever again. By mid-afternoon, the guests had scattered, vendors had packed up, and the only thing left of Sam's dream wedding was a string of angry social media posts and a lot of expensive dresses dirted by parking lot gravel. Meanwhile, Carter's corporate luncheon, wrapped with glowing Yelp reviews and a dozen new clients. Dylan swung by later with victory donuts. To the great vanishing act, he said, raising a jelly-filled pastry in salute. I clinked mine against his. We ate in silence, the good kind. The clean kind. The kind you earn after years of biting your tongue, carrying everyone else's weight, and finally, deciding to put it down. Sunday was quiet, in that eerie, post-explosion kind of way. I figured they'd be scrambling for someone to blame, and I wasn't disappointed. Around noon, Dylan sent me screenshots from the family group chat, the one I was blissfully no longer a part of. Mom was furious, calling it sabotage. At least I theorized that Jake must have hacked the venue system. Sam was crying to anyone who'd listen, spinning tales about how I'd plotted this for years. It was almost funny. I didn't need to hack anything. All I'd done was stop cleaning up their messes. But when people are used to being rescued, your silence feels like betrayal. By mid-afternoon, my phone was buzzing again. This time, it was Mom. I let it ring out. Then came the text. Mom, how could you? After everything we've done for you. Done for me? That was rich. I almost replied. Almost. Instead, I set my phone down and went back to cleaning my kitchen. Real life. Real peace. Around 4, Brandon tried his luck. Jake, man to man, can we just talk? He left a voicemail that managed to cram no hard feelings, and this is family into the same breath. No thanks. The wedding was supposed to be their big, glittering display of unity and perfection. Instead, it had turned into a cautionary tale when I didn't even have to narrate. People talk. Guests gossip. Vendors whisper. In a town like ours, word traveled fast. By Monday morning, the local grapevine was buzzing. Did you hear what happened at Sam Turner's wedding? Total disaster. Guests locked out. Venue double booked. Per planning, if you ask me. And best of all, no one blamed me. They didn't even know I was involved. To the world, it just looked like Sam and Mom had dropped the ball. Because, well, they had. By Monday night, Dylan and I grabbed wings at a little dive bar downtown. He raised his beer to me. To justice, he said, half grinning. To silence, I corrected, clinking my glass against his. It was the sweetest sound I'd heard in years. For once, I didn't have to explain myself. Didn't have to clean up the wreckage. I could just sit back and watch them finally live in the world they'd built without me. A world where I wasn't the safety net. Wasn't the afterthought. Wasn't even a whisper. Just a ghost, smiling in the distance. On Tuesday morning, I got an email from Marcy, the lead coordinator at Lakeview Pines. Subject line, Turner wedding final follow-up. She kept it professional, but I could hear the smirk in her writing. Bride called again. Requested to speak to the owner directly. Says she was blindsided, claims policy wasn't clear. Want me to pass her along to you? I stared at the screen for a moment, then typed back 2 words. Not yet. I had one last move to make. A clean one. By now, the gossip train had reached full speed. Sam's wedding disaster was no longer a family secret. It was a full-blown cautionary tale. Everyone in town had their version of it. Some exaggerated. Some not exaggerated enough. They still didn't know I'd been behind the scenes. But they were about to get a hint. That afternoon, I logged into the venue website's back end and made one small, highly visible update. Right under the banner for Lakeview Pines, I added a bold line of text. Please note, April 27th is reserved for a private executive celebration. No wedding bookings accepted on this date. I didn't name names. I didn't need to. Anyone looking to book last minute would know the place was sealed. Anyone wondering what happened would see the update and draw their own conclusions. And the cherry on top? The pictures. Carter's crew had uploaded a slick album of Saturday's executive luncheon, white tints glowing in the sun, charcuterie boards that belonged in magazines, and smiling guests toasting champagne flutes under Sam's former floral arch. Only now it bore a new banner. Success starts here. I sent the link to Marcy with a short message. Feel free to forward if they insist on speaking to ownership. She replied with a single thumbs-up emoji and a laughing face. An hour later, Mom called. I let it go to voicemail. Then Sam. Then Brandon. I didn't pick up. Instead, I texted Dylan. Think they'll figure it out yet? He replied, not unless someone puts it on a cake and lights it on fire. I laughed, stretched out on my couch, and let it all go. The cleanup? Not my job. The reputation? Not mine to save. They built this stage. All I'd done was pull the curtain back. By Wednesday, the denial phase had ended. Now came the bargaining. Sam finally cracked and sent me a message. No emojis this time. Just text. Cold. Almost businesslike. Sam, we need to talk. This went too far. I stared at it for a moment. Thought about the years I'd spent cleaning up her mistakes, bailing her out, being invisible except when she needed a human safety net. Too far? No. This was the first time I'd stopped short of too far. So I replied, "Me, talk to Mom. You said she speaks for you." The typing dots danced for a while, then disappeared. Dylan called later that night. He'd gone by Mom's house to pick up some old boxes she kept trying to dump on him. "She's still spinning it," he said, chewing into the phone. "Now she's telling people the venue scammed her. Like it was some big conspiracy." "Classic," I muttered. "But some folks aren't buying it," he added. "Word got around you were involved. Nothing concrete, but the vibe shifted. They're starting to connect dots." "Good. Let them." I didn't need credit. Just clarity. The best part was the silence, the kind that stretched between people who suddenly realized they might not be holding all the cards. Thursday afternoon, Brandon gave it one last go. A message that practically oozed passive-aggressive reconciliation. "Brandon, I know things got messy, but maybe we can reset. Family's still family, right?" I ignored it. Friday, I forwarded Marcy one last note, a statement of thanks for her professionalism, signed with my full name and title as minority partner. She asked if I wanted her to send it along. I told her to post it on the venue's site. Visibility is a funny thing. When you've been kept in the background long enough, your silhouette becomes something they never considered, until it's standing dead center in the spotlight. They weren't ready for that. That night, Dylan came over with 2 six-packs and a grin. "I don't know what you're doing next," he said, "but you've got people talking. Not just the family. A lot of folks are starting to see you for what you actually are." "What's that?" I asked. He raised a brow. "The guy who stopped pretending." We clinked bottles. And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't revenge. It was revelation. A month passed. No more texts. No more voicemails. Just silence. It was the kind that didn't sting anymore. It was the kind that felt like space. I used it well. I took a trip to the coast. Just me, a cabin with a crooked porch, and the sound of waves instead of guilt. I hiked. Read books I hadn't made time for in years. I even tried yoga once. Turns out I'm about as flexible as a frozen garden hose. But hey, I showed up. Back home, the fallout had cooled into dust. I heard whispers through mutual friends. Sam and Brandon had thrown a small replacement ceremony weeks later in someone's backyard. No gazebo. No brunch. Just folding chairs and a very red-eyed bride. They'd posted exactly one photo. No tags. No captions. I saved it. Not out of spite. Out of peace. It was the first time I saw a picture of that day and didn't feel like something was missing. Because it wasn't me. It was the illusion. One afternoon, Dylan and I met for coffee. He slid an envelope across the table. "Found this in Mom's attic. Thought you should have it." Inside was an old photo. Me, maybe 12, holding a trophy almost bigger than I was. Sam beside me, half smiling. Mom in the background, her hand on Sam's shoulder, not mine. Typical. I looked at it for a long time. Then I flipped it over and wrote on the back, "Never again invisible." I framed it, hung it in my entryway. Not as a wound, as a reminder. That was the past. Now I had plans. The venue was expanding. I was buying in deeper. Carter and I were sketching out a partnership for an events service. Dylan was considering quitting his job to help me build something real. People started asking questions. Respectful ones. About vision. About growth. About how someone like me had pulled it all off quietly. I just smiled. Let them wonder. That's the thing about a family portrait. If they won't make room for you in the frame, you don't beg for a spot. You take the picture, hang it up in your own house. And then build a life where you're front and center. No permission required.